Welcome to this distributed collaboration session entitled Sharing Data Across Systems. I'm Caroline Wright and I'm here with my colleague Joel Giaraja. Over the next 40 to 50 minutes, we're going to take you through a discovery of distributed collaboration. We're going to start with defining what is distributed collaboration and then look at the fundamental entities involved. Next, we'd like to review the administrative workflow for setting up a collaboration. Joel will provide a demonstration of this workflow. Then, we'd like to look at implementation patterns and what types of content can be shared to a collaboration. Joel will then demonstrate how you can share content through your collaboration. And finally, we'd like to look at the API resources available for distributed collaboration, discuss the release highlights, and look at the road ahead for this feature. And finally, I'd like to provide you with a list of additional resources that you can refer to after this demonstration. So let's start with answering the question, what is distributed collaboration? In order to do this, I think we need to take a step back and look at how sharing geographic knowledge has advanced, as well as how ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Enterprise have changed how we share data and content. Many years ago, with the introduction of GIS, we saw that it was mainly the domain of the individual. As an individual, I would have a workstation, most likely a Unix workstation, and I would digitize my data at that workstation, store my data on that workstation, analyze my data there, and generate a map product from that workstation. Very rarely did my data leave that workstation, and very rarely did I share any of my data or results or work products with any of my colleagues. But over time, we've evolved the ability to share geographic knowledge through the introduction of new products. Today, we have ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Enterprise, which allow us to create organizations to which those individuals can subscribe. Those individuals can now create their content and share that content through the organization. Other members of the organization can then use that data and content to create their own content and data, and they can therefore share that on to additional members of their organization. So the extent to which we can share geographic knowledge has grown considerably. So the next natural step was to look outside the organization and see how we can share data and content across a network of organizations. And that's essentially what distributed collaboration is. It allows us to connect multiple ArcGIS Enterprise and ArcGIS Online organizations. That connection is a trusted connection. And it allows us to quickly and easily share data and content across that network of organizations. It makes our data discoverable by not only our own members of our organization, but by other members of other organizations. And it provides the ability for all users who can access that information and data to leverage it, improve their engagement, improve their communication, and make better decisions. And the added advantage is this is an out-of-the-box feature. It doesn't require custom coding or scripts. So perhaps you can consider one of these use cases relates to you. I need to work with other organizations on a project, but I have no access to their data. Or perhaps I'm supposed to be helping other departments, but I can't see what information they're working with. And lastly, I have data in one environment, but I need to be able to access it in another. Perhaps some of these challenges are something that you face in your day-to-day life, and you will be able to use distributed collaboration to meet that challenge. Next, let's look at the fundamentals of distributed collaboration. Here, I really want to introduce some of the entities and concepts related to collaboration. Later on in the presentation, we'll look at each of these entities in more detail. But for now, let's just provide a high-level overview and see how these items relate to each other. To begin with, we have organizations. In my example here, those organizations are portals. Those portals want to share data and information. So they create a trusted collaboration. Trusted collaboration means that with the multiple participants, they must have different roles. We have a host and we have two guests in this example. The host is somebody who initiates the collaboration. A guest is somebody who was invited to join the collaboration. Each collaboration must have one or more collaboration workspaces. Each organization within the collaboration must join a group within their organization to the collaboration workspace. We then see that data and information can flow through the groups to the collaboration workspace. It's very possible for each of these organizations to be participating in multiple collaborations with different organizations. At the heart of collaboration is the ability to share content. Those items are shared using the existing sharing model to the group joined to the collaboration workspace. There's nothing new in that workflow. It's very familiar to your members of your organization. A user would simply share an item to the group, and that group just happens to be joined to a collaboration workspace. Once that content is available in the group, the collaboration workspace will identify whether it needs to be shared to the collaboration. So let's start by looking at how we set up a collaboration. And this is our administrative workflow. It's really a three-step process. We're going to create a collaboration, then invite organizations to participate, and then we're going to share data and content with that collaboration. And Joel's going to show us a demo of this shortly. So let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into the mechanics of creating a collaboration and the participants. So who can create a collaboration? Only the admins in your organization have the ability to create a collaboration. They can do this through a home application-driven workflow in either ArcGIS Enterprise or ArcGIS Online. The workflow is exactly the same. Who can participate in a collaboration? Well, a collaboration must consist of two or more participants, and those participants could either be ArcGIS Enterprise portals or ArcGIS Online organizations. We have the concept of a host participant, and this is the organization who initiates the collaboration. This organization creates the collaboration and then decides who to invite. They also have the ability to decide how those organizations can access the collaboration content. When ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Enterprise are in a collaboration, ArcGIS Online must always be the host. If an organization isn't the host, then it's considered to be the guest. A host can invite one or more organizations to join the collaboration. Again, only an admin can accept the invitation on the guest to join a collaboration. Now let's look at how participants are invited to a collaboration and how trust is established. So all portals or organizations participating in a collaboration must trust each other. Trust is established during an invitation acceptance process. During this process, the host who has invited the guest organisation creates an invitation, sends that to the guest organisation. The guest accepts that invitation and then sends an acceptance response back to the host. The host then accepts that response. With the acceptance of the response, trust is established between the organisations. So what is an invitation? It's a physical file that is exchanged between admins. The key here is that it's exchanged outside of the system. You could send this via email, put it on a share, put it on a thumbnail, but it must be shared outside of either ArcGIS Enterprise or ArcGIS Online. It's a physical file and it's used to exchange PKI-based collaboration keys, which allow us to form the trust. Once trust has been established, content can be shared. So in this conceptual diagram, on the left-hand side, I have a host organisation. On the right-hand side, I have a guest organisation. The host admin creates a collaboration and invites a guest. An invitation is downloaded by the admin and sent to the guest organisation outside of the system. The guest admin accepts the invitation, downloads and sends a response back to the host admin, again outside of the system. Once received, the host admin accepts that response, and finally we have trust established between both organisations, and content can now be shared to the collaboration. Next, let's take a little deeper look at collaboration workspaces. We know that each collaboration will contain one or more collaboration workspaces. So what is a collaboration workspace? Well, really, it's a conceptual space which allows us to connect groups, which allows content to flow to the collaboration participants. So each collaboration workspace could be related to either an event, a project, or a theme. In this example on the right-hand side, I've created my collaboration workspaces around themes. My first collaboration workspace is related to recreation data and content. My second is related to public works, and my third, transportation. It's very important that each participant in the collaboration link a group to the collaboration workspace. This could be an existing group or it could be a newly created group. But in order for content to flow through the collaboration, they must have a group joined to the collaboration workspace. Next, we need to define access to those collaboration workspaces. Access is defined at the group level, and it's the host who has the ability to define how the guests access each collaboration workspace. A guest could have send access, which would mean that they can send content to the collaboration, or they could have receive access, meaning that they can only receive content from the collaboration, or they could have send and receive access, meaning that they have the ability to both send and receive content to the collaboration. So in this conceptual diagram, I have the transportation department host on the left-hand side, and I have the public works department guest on the right-hand side. They're already in a trusted collaboration. This collaboration has one collaboration workspace. The Public Works Department has already joined their street closures group to this collaboration workspace. They have send access to the workspace, meaning that they can share content to the collaboration workspace, but they cannot receive content from it. They've shared content to the group joined to the collaboration workspace. What happens next is that content is sent to the collaboration workspace and received by the transportation department into their street maintenance group, which they've joined to the collaboration workspace. Lastly, when thinking about collaboration workspaces, we need to consider schedules. Each participant can configure when content is shared with the collaboration workspace. The process of sharing content to the collaboration is known as synchronization. An admin has the ability to configure a collaboration workspace to sync content immediately. This is the default setting, and this means when an item is shared to the group joined to the collaboration workspace, it will be immediately shared to the collaboration. Any updates to that item will also be shared immediately to the collaboration. Alternatively, the admin could choose to set a sync to occur at a scheduled interval. By default, this is once every hour, but it could be anywhere up to once every 24 hours. And lastly, the admin has the ability to pause and resume the synchronization tasks. They may want to stop synchronization for a period and then resume it once they're ready. Okay, so Joe's going to give us a demo of how to set up a collaboration, which, as we know, is our administrative workflow.
Great. Thank you, Caroline. So here I have two ArcGIS Enterprise portals. I am using version 10.8, and we're going to walk through some of those concepts that Caroline covered, from creating a collaboration, inviting a guest organization to that collaboration, setting the access that that guest organization has on the workspace, and so forth. So let's begin. So we're going to take a fictitious scenario here. Let's say we have the state of Maryland, and this is their permit inspection agency, and they are looking to set up a collaboration with the city of Bethesda's permit inspection agency. And so the two organizations have discussed setting this up, and they've decided that the state of Maryland is going to be the host of this collaboration. And maybe they decided that because in the future, if the state would like to invite any other cities to the collaboration, they'll have the control to do so. And so we're going to start our journey in the state of Maryland's ArcGIS Enterprise organization. And so as the administrator, I've already gone in and read the documentation and understood how to set up a collaboration and the prerequisites required. So I would definitely recommend doing that before you begin. So we'll begin by going to the organization page, and I am signed in as an administrator of the organization. And we will go to the settings tab. And here you'll see the collaborations page that you can click on. And this is where all of the collaborations that you are participating in, whether you are the host organization or a guest, they will all be listed here. Right now, we don't have any collaboration set up. As the host, I'm going to create a collaboration, and I'm going to provide a name. So the collaboration name and collaboration description will be visible to all guest organizations, so you want to be descriptive here. We will call this State of Maryland Permit Collaboration, and the description will say to share permit data with participants, and I'll hit next. Now we are going to create our workspace for this collaboration. As Caroline mentioned, you can have one or more workspaces in your collaboration. It's up to you how you want to architect that. And so here I will name this State of Maryland Permit Workspace, and I'll just use that in the description as well. Next, I am going to join a group to this collaboration workspace. So I can either create a new group, or I can link to an existing group. And again, this is the group that I'm going to share content to or receive content to from the collaboration workspace. And so I've already created a group called Maryland Permit Inspection Collaboration Group, and I've added the members who I want access to this collaboration workspace to this group. And so I will click next. And now I have the option to choose how my feature layers are shared to the collaboration workspace. Caroline is going to discuss this in the next section, but for now I'm going to choose to share my feature layers as copies, if possible. I'm going to hit save and invite. Next, I need to put in the URL of the guest portal organization, and so I'm going to just open up the city of Bethesda and copy that URL and enter it here. And finally, I have the option to set their access to the workspace now. You can also update this later on. So as Caroline mentioned, you can choose to have the state of, to give the city of Bethesda only send access. So that means they can only send content to the workspace, receive content. So that means they're not able to send any content to the workspace, but we can share content with them, or send and receive. And so it's more of a two-way flow of content being shared between the state and city. And so I'll choose send and receive content, and I will hit save invitation. This generates our invitation file. And so if we look on our disk, we'll see it's an actual invitation file. And so I will copy that. Because I have access to both ArcGIS Enterprise portals, I can just import this easily into the city of Bethesda, but in most cases that's not going to be possible. And as Caroline mentioned, you might have to email the file or put it on a thumb drive and share it with the guest organization that way. And so now we are in the city of Bethesda's ArcGIS Enterprise portal. Similarly, we're going to go into the settings. We're going to hit collaborations, and in this case you can see the city of Bethesda already has a distributed collaboration set up with their online organization, and we'll visit that later. But in this case, because I'm accepting an invitation file, I'm going to hit accept invitation, choose file, go to my downloads, and I will accept the invitation. It also asks me if the collaboration host requires web tier authentication. In this case, they do not, so I'll just leave that as no. Once I hit accept invitation, a response file is generated. And there's our response file. And so I'm going to go back to the state of Maryland's ArcGIS Enterprise portal. If we were, if we refreshed our page to get there, we would go, of course, to the collaborations tab, hit on the collaboration, and then go to view guests. And here we can see the city of Bethesda's portal, and we can see the invitation is still pending under status. And so if we hit this action cog and say accept guest organization, we'll have the option to import their response file. And you'll see there's a slight difference in the invitation and response file. This one ends with invite, this one ends with response. And again, I have the option to indicate whether the guest organization requires web tier authentication or not. In this case, they don't, so I'll leave that as no, and I'll accept the guest organization. And the last step of this, as the city of Bethesda, I need to join the collaboration workspace. And so you can see here we have the workspace and the status is not yet joined. So I'm going to join workspace, and here I'll create a new group for this workspace, and I'll call it State of Maryland and City of Bethesda Collaboration Group. And I'll just give it some tags. And I will say the feature layers are also going to be shared by copies, and here I can determine my sync schedule. So I'll hit join workspace. Just going to leave the schedule as default for now. And so if I were to go to my groups, I should see this newly created collaboration group. Here it is, State of Maryland and City of Bethesda Collaboration Group. And when I click on that, I can see by this text here that this group is joined to a collaboration. And at any point, a group can only be joined with one collaboration. going to pass it back to Caroline now.
Thanks, Joel, for showing us how very easy it was to create a collaboration and invite a guest participant. So next I'd like to take a look at how we can implement the distributed collaboration and review some of the common implementation patterns. Let's start with the concept of sharing content from an ArcGIS Enterprise portal to ArcGIS Online. In this scenario, ArcGIS Enterprise is the guest and has the source data. ArcGIS Online is the host and considered available for public access to the data. This is our most frequently used pattern. Organizations use ArcGIS in this scenario to manage their data and items and then share them to ArcGIS Online. Once that data and information is shared to online, they can take advantage of the scalability of the SaaS environment in ArcGIS Online. Edits can be made to the source data in ArcGIS Enterprise and synchronized at a scheduled interval to ArcGIS Online. In this example, the end user is typically a contractor accessing ArcGIS Online, or potentially seasonal staff, or the general public. The converse of the previous scenario is the ability to share content from ArcGIS Online to ArcGIS Enterprise. In this example, ArcGIS Online is the host, and that's where the data collection is occurring. ArcGIS Enterprise is the guest, and that's where the QA activities are occurring. The data collected in ArcGIS Online is shared to the ArcGIS Enterprise and quality assured there. Again, this is a very common pattern, especially for field data collection. The data is collected against feature layers published in ArcGIS Online, and then those feature layers are copied to ArcGIS Enterprise. Any edits to that data in Online are subsequently synchronized to ArcGIS Enterprise. The next pattern is where we have multiple organizations sharing content to a central organization. In this example, consider this to be a global organization. They have a central office, in this case, that is acting as the host in our collaboration, and that host has invited the regional offices, our guests, to join the collaboration. Content is flowing from the regional offices, the guests, to the central office, the host. In this scenario, we see the host being allowed to have central visibility into all organization data and content, because data is being shared from the guest organizations to the central host organization. The host in this situation could either be an ArcGIS Enterprise portal or an ArcGIS Online organization. The converse of that scenario is the ability for a central organization to share content to multiple organizations. So again, here we have a global organization with a central office acting as a host, but in this case, that central office has collaborated with the regional offices with the intent of sharing content from the central office to the regional offices. Data shared from the central office becomes the authoritative data for the organization and can be shared to the guest organizations. Each guest can use that received data and content to create their own maps and apps, knowing that it is the authoritative data source. The host in this scenario can also either be an ArcGIS portal or an ArcGIS Online organization. So what types of content can we share to a collaboration? We can't share all content types, but we have a very varied list of supported item types. With each release we include the ability to support new item types. So this list is continually growing. As examples of what we can share now, we have hosted feature services as copies, and I'll explain what I mean in the next slide by as copies. We can also share feature layers published from an enterprise geodatabase as a copy. We can share text files such as CSVs and Word documents and Excel files, shape files, different package files, web maps, web scenes, map services by reference only, and a variety of different application types, such as Web App Builder, any of the apps created from our Esri templates, or any of our insights items, workbooks, pages, models, or themes. And lastly, we can also share hosted feature layer views, also as copies. If there's something on this list that you would like us to support, do let us know. I have our contact information at the end of this presentation. So let's take a look at sharing feature layers in a bit more detail. So as you saw in Joel's demonstration, when he joined his group to the collaboration workspace, he had two options for sharing feature layers to that collaboration workspace. You could either choose to share that feature layers shared to that group joined to the collaboration workspace as a copy or as a reference. So what does it mean if I share a feature layer as a copy? It means that that feature layer data is physically copied from one organization and replicated to another. The receiving organization will receive that replicated data and a new feature layer will be created. Any edits made by the data owner in the source organization are synchronized periodically to the receiving organization. It's also important to know here, for this feature to be possible, the layer has to be sync enabled, and Joel will show that in the next demonstration. The second option is to share that feature layer as a reference. This essentially means that we are sharing the feature layer service URL. Data is not shared in this scenario. The receiving organization will not see a service published within their own organization. Instead, they will receive an item which references the feature layer service in the source organization. What this does allow is for the receiving organization to have live access to that feature layer and its data. Any edits made by the data owner are immediately accessible to that receiving organization because they are accessing that feature layer live. It should be noted that the organization security model is still in place here. So the receiving organization must be an authenticated user in the source organization in order to access the feature layer service. Or alternatively, the source service can be shared publicly, allowing access by anybody to that service. So let's take a look at the workflow for sharing feature layers as a copy. On the left-hand side, I have a guest organization. And that guest organization has joined the collaboration, trust has been established, and they have send access to the collaboration workspace. A member of their organization has shared feature layer 1 to the group joined to the collaboration workspace. Once that item, that service item, is shared to the group, collaboration will create a copy of that data using replication and share it to the host organization. The host organization will receive a copy of that data and collaboration will publish it as a service within the host organization's site. Any members of the host organization who are accessing that feature layer are now actually accessing the feature layer service residing in the host organization. The guest organization can continue to edit the feature layer within their own organization, and collaboration will synchronize those edits on a scheduled interval, anywhere between 1 to 24 hours a day. Those edits are then received by the host organization and accessible to the host organization members. In this scenario, the guest organization is sharing feature layers as a reference. So the guest organization is again on the left-hand side and has send access to the collaboration workspace. They've joined a group to the collaboration workspace and they've shared feature layer 1 to that group. Because they've configured the workspace to share feature layers as a reference, the data is not copied to the collaboration. Instead, the source service URL is shared as an item to the collaboration and received by the host organization. The host organization will see an item in their organization referencing the feature layer service URL in the guest organization. Members of the host organization who access this feature layer in the host organization are actually accessing the service residing in the guest organization. The data, therefore, is live to the host organization member, and any edits made by the guest organization are seen immediately by the member of the host organization. This model does require the member of the host organization to have an authenticated access to the guest organization in order to access the service. So let's take a look at our second demo, where Joe's going to show us how to share content through a collaboration. And this is our user workflow.
Great. Thank you, Caroline. So here we are again in the state of Maryland. The state of Maryland and the city of Bethesda have set up their distributed collaboration and they're ready to start sharing content. So I'm going to show you how to share a few different types of items. The first one I want to share with you is how to share a hosted feature layer view. So let's take this zip codes feature layer as an example. And if we open this in the visualization tab, we can see that we have all of these polygons for all of these areas within the state of Maryland. Let's say we only want to share a subset of this data with the city of Bethesda. Instead of sharing the entire feature layer with them, instead I can create a definition query on this feature layer and only share with them the data that's pertinent to their organization. So to do so, you can do this in the map viewer or the visualization tab. I'm going to click on more options and actually, missed one important step. So right now this is our hosted feature layer view, but first we need to create our view layer. And so I'll call it zip codes view for city Bethesda, and we'll leave the summary and tags as is, and we'll create that view layer. And so once that creates, we will be able to set our definition query on the view layer. Because if we were to share that, the hosted feature layer, then the city of Bethesda will get all of the data, and that might not be our intention here. So next, before I go and create my layer definition query, I want to sync enable this hosted feature layer view. Because as Caroline mentioned, in order to share this feature layer as a copy with the guest participant, I need to make sure that sync is enabled. And so here it's enabled. Also, one thing to note is that the hosted feature layer, which I created this view from, also has sync enabled. And so be sure to set those. And so again, we will come to our visualization tab, and I will click on more option, and now I can see the option to set view definition, we have three options for how we do this. You can either define it by the features, define a definition by fields, or define an area of interest. For this demonstration, I'm going to define features. And here we have our query builder. And so I am going to create a layer definition where Mail City is equal to Bethesda. And so my layer is only going to reflect data for the city of Bethesda. So I'll say apply definition. And we will let that run. Okay, so now we have our view with a layer definition applied. And so I'm going to go back to overview, and I'm going to share this with the Maryland Permit Inspection Collaboration Group. And so as I share this item to this group that's linked to the collaboration workspace, the data will be packaged and sent over to the city of Bethesda. So while that's running, I want to show you another example of items that you can share in distributed collaboration. So ArcGIS Insights is a web-based application that allows you to do drag and drop analysis. It's a great tool, really interactive, and here we have a very simple analysis looking at permit data for the state of Maryland. And I am basically looking at the trends over time, so I can see that there are spikes in the month of June in 2018. I'm also able to do an interactive filter by just clicking on some of these different charts. So here we have permit status, whether the permit is still being issued or if it's been stopped or completed. So if I click on final, you'll see the map updates to show me all of the permits that have this status of final. And so we ran this analysis to determine, if there's any trends with high permit activity and different demographic segments. And so let's say that the city of Bethesda is interested in running a similar analysis. Instead of having to create it themselves, starting in ArcGIS Enterprise 10.7, you can now share this with the collaboration. And so I have the option to either share the entire workbook, which is what we are looking at here, or I can share the model, which is the analysis that I ran. And so in this case, I'm just going to share the analysis with them. And two of the inputs required for this analysis is the zip code layer. So if you recall, I just created a view and sent that over to the city of Bethesda. And the second input is the residential permit data. And so the city has their own data, and I don't need to share with them anything there. So I'm going to go down to the page options, and I'm going to say share as. And here under type, another ArcGIS Insights item you can share is the page. So if this workbook contained multiple pages, you would have the ability to share only one of those if you chose. And so I'll choose model under type, and I'll just call this permit trend model analysis. And from within ArcGIS Insights, I can see my distributed collaboration group. So I'll share directly from here. So there are some version compatibility things to consider. So we have blogs and documentation that covers all of this. In this case, I'm using ArcGIS Enterprise 10.8 for both the state of Maryland and city of Bethesda. And so I will be able to share that content. And so here we are in the city of Bethesda. If I just refresh my page, I should see that new content has arrived, and it has. And I can quickly see that by the collaboration badge, and it tells me that this item was received from a collaboration. So that's a quick and easy way to identify content received from a collaboration workspace. We also added a filter, a collaboration filter that you can use. And so here we have all of the collaborations that the city is participating in. This is our state of Maryland collaboration. So if I click on that, I should see only the 2 items that were shared to me from the state. And here they are. So if I were to open up this zip code feature layer view that the city shared with me, I should only see the data for the city of Bethesda. And there it is. And if I go to our ArcGIS Insights model, I'm going to open this in Insights. And so I'm going to add the model to our workbook. And I'm also going to add the 2 input layers that I know I need to run this analysis. So one of them is the residential permit data for the city, and the other is that zip code view that was shared from us from the state of Maryland. And so we can see none of the cards are active right now, and that's because we need to update our model. And so if I switch back to the model page, that might have been too quick, but there it is, analysis view. And I can see I have the option to update these 2 inputs. And so for residential permit, I will say update to use my residential permit data, and I say update. And for the zip codes, I'll ask it to use my zip code layer. I'll say update. And you can see the analysis is now running, and it looks like we have some data. And so just like that, I was able to recreate the analysis that the state of Maryland completed simply by setting up a distributed collaboration and having them share their ArcGIS Insights model with me. And so here we have our end result that is telling me, there's high activity, high permit activity for this segment, top tier. And so if I go into Esri's dictionary to find out who those are, I can see all of the information about this segment group. And so you can see they have a high household income. Apparently they're the wealthiest tapestry market. I'd like to be a part of this segment. And it just gives me a wealth of information about this segment. And so this analysis might be of interest to anyone who's looking to target maybe that segmented group who has a high amount of permit activity. And one more thing I want to show you is sharing from ArcGIS Enterprise to ArcGIS Online. So let's say, I've ran this analysis and I want to share the output of this analysis with ArcGIS Online. And so I'm going to take this output, which is our permits trend by segment. So that's the layer. And I'm going to say export. Actually, I'm going to share the data. And I will call it exported layer. And I'm just going to share it with my organization. And this is going to take this output and create a layer in my organization. And so if I navigate back to the City of Bethesda's content page, you'll see I have a new feature layer that I can open, and this represents that permit data or permit trend layer that I generated in the analysis. And so I will just have this symbolized by the tapestry segment name, and I can hit save to create a web map. And so maybe I run all of my analysis in ArcGIS Enterprise portal, and I only share the content that I want my public to have access to our ArcGIS Online organization. And as well, I can easily go in and create a web mapping application. We will just use the basic viewer for this example. And again, there's lots of documentation on things you need to know when sharing web applications between ArcGIS Enterprise organizations or with ArcGIS Online, so please review that. And so our web mapping application was created. Now I can take that, and this time I'm going to share it with my ArcGIS Online organization. And so I'll hit OK. And just by sharing the web application, all of the items needed to power this web application will also be shared. So our web map and our feature layer view. And so I will come over to the City of Bethesda's ArcGIS Online organization, and I will go to content, and hopefully we should see those new items soon. And there they are. And so again, as you witnessed, I only shared the web mapping application, but the associated items to that with that also came over. And so if I open up the web mapping application in ArcGIS Online, I did share my feature layer as a reference, so I should be asked to sign in to my ArcGIS Enterprise organization, as you see here. So I'll hit OK, and there we go. And so just to recap what we saw here, we ran an ArcGIS, we ran an insights analysis in the state of Maryland. We shared that model with the City of Bethesda, who was then able to use their own data to recreate the analysis. And they took the output of their analysis, created a web map and a web mapping application, and shared that out to ArcGIS Online. And so you could use this as an information product, maybe to share with the public. All right, Caroline, back to you.
Thanks, Joel. Thanks for showing us how very easy it is to share content between an ArcGIS Enterprise organization to another ArcGIS Enterprise organization, and then also from an enterprise organization to an ArcGIS Online organization. So I know many of you out there may be interested in automating the creation of a distributed collaboration and also the management of that collaboration longer term. So great news, we have RESTful APIs available to help you in that process. To start with, we have exposed through the ArcGIS REST API many of the distributed collaboration resources, API resources. So here you see an example of just some of the APIs available to you. Those APIs are very well documented. You can find that documentation on developers.arcgis.com. You'll find a section entitled Portals, Distributed Collaboration, and you can see a whole host of APIs documented there. Additionally, we have added support for distributed collaboration into the ArcGIS API for Python. So this will definitely help you script and automate quite easily common administrative workflows for distributed collaboration. So look for those modules entitled Collaboration Manager and Collaboration under the main admin module. There's also, of course, accompanying documentation, again on developers.arcgis.com to help you get started. Let's take a look at the release highlights over time and where we're kind of heading with this capability. In general, what we see is that we released this feature at 10.5, and with each subsequent release, we have added new capabilities, and we will continue to do so moving forward. So between 10.5 and 10.7.1, we added the ability to share feature layers and views, applications. We provided a synchronization status reporting experience, the ability to sync your collaboration workspaces on demand. We now support the ability to share insights items, and we also added some user experience capabilities such as the collaboration content badge, which Joel showed you, and we also have a collaboration filter, so you can easily identify what content was received from a collaboration. We've also added a new custom admin role for managing collaborations, meaning that you do not need to be a default admin in order to create and manage collaborations. You could be a custom admin with this specific administrative role. So at 10.8, which is our current release, we've added the ability to share group-based web applications. Many of you had asked for that capability, and we responded in this release. We also provided a REST API experience to allow you at the collaboration workspace level to embed a viewer credential. What this will do is allow you to access those services which have been shared to you as references. Those services will use this credential configured at the collaboration workspace level to seamlessly access the service referenced in your collaboration. So looking ahead, we are working hard to provide the ability to edit, to support two-way feature service editing. We know this is a common request, and we're working hard to provide an experience for you to complete this workflow. We're also looking to support the new ArcGIS dashboards. Those are the newly revamped JavaScript 4x versions of the dashboards. We will look to support that in the near future. We also want to provide an updated user experience to kind of bring the collaboration workflow in line with the recent updates to the home application. And finally, we also have a significant number of requests to allow the ability to support collaboration between ArcGIS online organizations. Again, is on the immediate roadmap. So let's wrap up this session with kind of sharing some additional resources that you can access once you've finished watching this presentation. We have blogs, many blogs available to you. We have case studies and we have our user documentation, which will be a great way to get you started in creating and managing your collaborations. This slide just represents a small number of the available blogs related to distributed collaboration that are now available. They vary from looking at architectural patterns for collaboration to kind of deep dive into very specific features. So you can certainly find these blogs and more at Esri.com, ArcGIS blogs. We also have a case study for Three Rivers Park District. They had a very specific challenge in that they had their data, their source data, managed within the ArcGIS Enterprise portal. They created and managed their data there, but they also wanted to share that with their end users, the general public, in the ArcGIS online organization. They were doing this manually before ArcGIS, before distributed collaboration was released. With the availability of distributed collaboration, they were able to connect the two environments. So the data in ArcGIS Enterprise is now shared through collaboration to ArcGIS Online, and they can synchronize any edits to their data automatically. Before, this was very much a manual process. Somebody would have to extract the data in Enterprise, republish it in ArcGIS Online, and then repeat every time edits were made to their source data in Enterprise. So, very interesting case study. Will certainly highlight the benefits of collaboration to this organization. And lastly, we have our user documentation available at enterprise.arcgis.com. Here you'll find a plethora of information about setting up a collaboration and managing a collaboration. So look to the administrative workflows and you'll find a section entitled Distributed Collaboration. So thank you for listening on behalf of myself and Joel. And we always love to hear from you. So if you have any feedback or any requests for supporting new item types or new patterns or suggestions on capabilities, then please feel free to contact us at distributedcollaboration@esri.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.